Wow.
Each of us has our own unique background and story of how we became a part of Chiefs Kingdom.
Our reach is far and wide, with fans all over the world cheering on our Kansas City Chiefs.
Everyone donning the red and gold has figuratively signed that mutual agreement and come together for one common purpose.
For 76,000 of us at a time, to descend upon Arrowhead, man our stations, let out our loudest battle cry to the tune of 142.2 decibels, and make that stadium rock until our opponents beg for mercy.
We are unrelenting in our pride for this city, these players, and this team. This is the show for the allies, Arrowhead Allies.
Live in front of your naked, steaming eyes, Arrowhead Allies is here. But you know this is a Chiefs show. You know this is the best Chiefs show out there. But we're not sticking with just the Chiefs, guys. Welcome in, buckle up, grab a seat. No ticket required. It's free entry today, even though our good friend Joe Theismann, Super Bowl 17 champion, former NFL MVP, going to be joining us. We're going to go around the league, maybe talk some Chiefs, see what his thoughts are on the current state of the AFC. Guys, Joe Theismann coming here on the show today, part Noah of one of our favorite broadcasting crews of all time with Mike Patrick and Al McGuire. And it's all on the table because Joe is our guy. And Shane, I know you're just dying to ask about Andre the Giant.
I can't say I am. You know, I was a big fan of the Washington Redskins back in the early 80s when I was in 7th and 8th grade, when they went to back-to-back Super Bowls. Joe Theismann was John Riggins carried a lot of the ground game for the Redskins in that big victory in January of 1983. But Joe Theismann, he was a gutsy quarterback. You know, with the game on the line, he threw a pass that was almost intercepted, and I believe it was defensive end A.J. Dewey that Joe Theismann knocked it out of his hands, which changed the momentum, gave Washington the ball back, or kept Washington the ball, and they kept going. And John Riggins took a big 4th and 1, 42 yards for touchdown. And it was a phenomenal Super Bowl. The Washington Redskins were so good in the early 80s that they went to 2 Super Bowls in a row. They didn't get it the second time, but I'm honored to be on here with you, my brothers, and Joe Theismann. What do you think, Brian?
For sure, man. I can't wait to talk about that 2-man booth he had with Mike Patrick, transition into the 3-man booth later on with Paul McGuire, as you just stated, Clint. I was a big Sunday Night Football fan back in the day. I thought Sunday Night Football was better than Monday Night Football back in the day. Now, it's better now. Monday night, it was cool, but I don't know, that booth just added a certain pizzazz to the game. I always love those. And you remember back then in the 90s and early 2000s too, until they made the switch, the Sunday night game was like secondary. The Monday night game was the big game of the week. And now, you know, it's Sunday Night Football. That's the big, and I've gotten used to that switch, but I really want to ask him about that and dive into his broadcasting career.
Yes. And he did such a great job. He did a great job just in studio. I remember a lot of post-game wrap-ups. He just had this, he has this mind for the game, guys. So he's been on our show several times over the years. We ran into him at LAX a couple Super Bowls ago, and finally we're like, Joe, it's us, you know, you're Kansas City guys. He's going to be a tremendous asset here to kind of get into the wings, because not only do we have the Chiefs to talk about coming off a 19-8 victory over the Denver Broncos, which was, thank goodness, guys, 5 days ago. I think if we would have done a show about that game, like a post-game show, it might have sounded a lot different after watching the rest of the NFL play and just marinating on it a few days. It's like, you know what? We're at the top of the mountain, 5-1, tied for the best record in the NFL. I don't know. We're good. That's all I got to say. And
I'm saying
Yeah.
Agree.
You know it.
Unfortunately, the Chargers aren't so good here. We saw them lose to the Cowboys, and man, this AFC West cannot get it together except for the Chiefs. As much as I want to talk about the receivers, the problems we might be having on offense, I mean, we could be the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos guys, and I'm happy to say that we are not.
Amen to that.
Seriously, and we don't have the cap problems that the Chargers are going to have, because they have some serious contracts on board, and it's a lot of fine china, as I like to put it. Look, I can see the Chargers going through some type of fire sale or reboot coming up soon. I think everybody will be on the board except Justin Herbert. If this team doesn't get it together, I can see Eckler being let go of. He looks like he's lost a step. Last year, he was extremely explosive. Khalil Mack, still an expensive piece on that defense. Derwin James, an expensive piece who often gets injured. Bosa, another expensive piece who gets injured. And those guys, look, they're not old. I'm not saying that, but in football years and in terms of the injuries that those guys have sustained over their careers, they're kind of old. Bosa was 17, right? He got drafted with Patrick.
Yeah.
And he's been in that DN spot. And it seems like he gets hurt every single year. Derwin James been in the league since 2016. He's even older. And his contract is even heftier. I think he's the highest paid safety in the league. So look, that Justin Herbert contract is gonna start to seep in a little bit coming up next year. Look, you see Keenan Allen, he still got it a little bit, but he's getting long in the tooth. It was reports of them cutting him this past off season. You see Mike Williams, he's hurt again. So look, unfortunate situation for the
isn't working out so
at all. So unfortunate situation for the Chargers. You guys can chomp on the rest of the West. I'm pretty sure we'll dive on into Denver in a second.
So it's too easy. Michael, you're out in LA, of course, and you were at the Rams game here on Sunday. But then as we look at the Chargers here, just kind of what's the word coming out, because this is just and we got a bunch of graphics. I don't know if we're going to save those for Joe or what have you. But when you look at Justin Herbert and just what this is and what this is becoming. 27-27 as a starter, to me, that stat tells the tale. That's what this is. That's what Justin Herbert is right now. And God bless him. We met the man in Miami this past offseason. He actually congratulated Noah and I on our Super Bowl win. That's no lie. And we're like Justin, I don't know if you see, I'm 39 years old. I don't exactly play in the NFL. You don't have to congratulate me, but thank you. What's the story out in LA right now?
No, in LA, man, here they're just talking about a lot of it is Justin Herbert. You get the ball with 2 minutes left. If people are already calling you elite, you're supposed to go and at least tie that game up. So a lot of people are saying that he's a guy that's putting up great numbers, but he's not winning these games. And you said the 27-27 record, that's just been the complaint out here, is that, hey, if you want to be compared to Mahomes, you want to be compared to even say a Joe Burrow, you have to win these close games. And the fact that he's not able to do that, now it's having more people nitpick at different things that he's doing throughout the game. So a lot of it is that pressure on Justin Herbert. And of course, at the top, everybody's like, get Staley out of there ASAP. People are still upset that they didn't go and get Sean Payton, because they felt that they needed an offensive guy to kind of be there with Justin. So it's just going how everybody expected it to be. That's why they expect Brandon Staley to be done at the end of the season. And like Brian said, man, so many older players, and with that contract, it's going to really come down to them drafting well to get them to be where they want to be, and that's right there next to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, can I choose violence right now?
Please.
Because didn't somebody on this very show last week criticize Brett Veach and the Chiefs for paying our offensive linemen? Huh?
Yes.
You want to end up like Justin Herbert, getting hurt every week, breaking your middle finger? Huh? Do you want to end up like Aaron Rodgers?
Joe Burrow?
Patrick Mahomes has been hurt quite a bit over the past. He's
been nicked up. And
that's what
Orlando Brown Jr. isn't here anymore. So that's Joe Burrow's problem to deal with now. So I'm just saying though, man, that be my whole point with paying the O-line, man. You got to protect your best asset.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and bring on our good friend, Joe Theismann, to the show. Joe, kind enough to join us here. You're among friends. How are you, sir?
I feel like I'm in a huddle right now.
Call something. What do you got?
Well,
Horsepower trap.
Let's go. No. Actually, what we're gonna do is going to 60 outside. Give the ball to John and just ride him all the way to the Super Bowl.
Wow, right before you came on, our good friend Shane here was just talking about your guy, John Riggins there. Although he is a Kansas Jayhawk, we will still celebrate his career here despite that fact, Joe. Well, welcome. This is you're traveling, so this is so nice of you to give us some time here and kind of talk about the NFL. But I got to start, man. You're Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What a win over Caleb Williams and the USC Trojans. I'm really a big fan of Sam Hartman when they got him from the transfer portal from Wake Forest. And now to see what Coach Freeman, the vision is starting to come together despite a couple early losses in the season. Just kind of give us your thoughts on the big win that Notre Dame had and where you see this going under Coach Freeman.
I thought that the defensive performance against USC, excuse me, was one of the greatest I've ever seen. Not that I'm partial to Notre Dame, which I am, but that was one of the most outstanding efforts I've ever seen by an entire group of players. And Sam is just as cool as a cucumber under pressure. He's made for the moment. We had a couple things happen in the Ohio State game. That one got away from us a little bit. They just were flat against Louisville. But boy, did they play well against USC. I mean, I was so impressed with every aspect of our game, the kicking, the offense, the defense, and it doesn't get any easier. Now we go down and play Clemson. Yeah. I mean, you think of the games that Notre Dame has played in the middle of the season: Ohio State, Duke, Louisville, USC, and Clemson. Yep. There is another team in the country that plays those 5 type of teams in that stretch on their resume, and so I'm proud of what the guys did.
Joe, we're talking about, before you came on, we were talking about the quarterback situation, Herbert, in Los Angeles. And I want to cover that with he's only 500 now in 4 years of being a starting quarterback, as well as other franchises like the New York Jets, the Cleveland Browns. They draft quarterbacks, and then it seems like 2 years later, they're getting rid of them. The Jets invested a lot in Sam Darnold. They got rid of him. Then they traded up for Wilson in the first round. They got him. And then, of course, they got Aaron Rodgers. And it just seems like, in totality, my question to you, Joe, is, does it seem to you like these NFL franchises aren't giving these quarterbacks enough time to grow and mature as an NFL quarterback? Do you feel like it's moving? They're they're giving up too soon? What do you think, Joe?
No, they're cutting bait and moving on. I agree with you. It takes time to develop in that position. And I've always believed this: the quarterback position is the single most dependent position on the field. Mm-hmm. Think of it. If you don't have an offensive line, we see that in New York, both the Jets and the Giants, as a matter of fact. If you don't have wide receivers, same situation. If you don't have a good running game, problem. If you don't have a defense, if you don't have a kicker. I heard a statistic the other day: 27% of the games in the NFL this year have been decided by 3 points or less, or 2022, decided by 3 points or less. That's a fourth of the games played are decided by 3 points. So if you don't have a kicker, you've got problems. You get a coaching change, you get a philosophical change. One person wants to run one kind of offense, another one wants to run another kind of offense. And it just gets all muddled for the guy trying to play the position. They are quick to make change. I agree with you. I think in the National Football League, it's what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm. And I think in Zach Wilson, Aaron's not going to play forever. I mean, maybe he comes back hopefully at the end of this year, maybe another year. But Zach Wilson is getting some very valuable playing time, and he's growing. He's struggling. He's better. He's playing better this year than he was last year. I think we'll all concede that. So he's continuing to grow into the position. And now Anthony Richardson's lost an entire year through injury. Mm-hmm. We've seen Bryce Young in and out a little bit. CJ Stroud's made some great strides down in Houston, really because he's on the field, because he's not losing time. And a pretty darn good football team, a very under-the-radar football team Houston is around him. So, yeah, I agree with the assumption that we sort of move on from guys really, really quickly. But that has to do, again, is the owner firing a head coach? Is the owner changing the system on offense? Those go into the factors of why guys don't succeed.
Hey Joe, our Kansas City Chiefs right now are we're progressing on offense. I'll say that. We're not where we want to be right now.
Nice
What a
word.
great
But
word that is.
thank
What
you.
a great word.
With that being said, man, you played on some tremendous teams in the 80s, man. You played with some monsters on that defense. You had Darryl Green, one of the best cornerbacks of all time. You had some monsters over there. Well, with that being said, with you having a defense on your side, like how the Chiefs have now with the potential top 5 defense, statistically right now, that's what it says. Does that let you gamble a little more on offense? Does that switch up the play calling a little bit?
No, you have to play smart football. The Kansas City Chiefs right now are not playing anywhere near on offense the football they play. Patrick Mahomes, to me, is the most exciting player in football. I think he's the best quarterback in football right now. That's my personal opinion. But then also, you see him at times just try and do too much. The other night, I mean, he gets sacked fourth and 22, third and 19. Patrick believes that he can make a play on every play, and you can't. And it catches up with them during the course of a game. They were lucky to win a couple of games this year so far. And Patrick, this is what's scary about the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to get better, and he's going to get better. I like I say, he hasn't played anywhere near he has through the course of last year. But didn't we see this last year in Kansas City? The beginning of the year, they weren't as cohesive as I think everybody expected them to be because they won a championship. Now, all of a sudden, you get into the flow of the season. And I've always said this, the first 3 regular season games are now like preseason games because the starters don't play in preseason. So they have to, coaches have to find a rhythm with them. Players have to find their ability to be able to last 60 minutes of football. Running backs and wide receivers have to have the ability to be able to hold on to the ball when they're actually getting hit. Something doesn't happen in preseason. So it only happens during the early part of the regular season. But Chiefs, to me, I've always felt like the defense was a little bit behind, and certainly we know how important Chris Jones is.
Yeah.
That became quite obvious, and then all of a sudden he shows up and go, gee whiz, looks like an entirely different football team. But I think Patrick will continue to be Patrick, but I think he's got to temper it a little bit. I mean, you can't make plays all the time. And with Kelsey there, Art Monk was my security blanket. It's really funny. At the quarterback position, it seems like there's that one guy that when things break down and you start moving around, all of a sudden that one guy flashes. He finds a hole. He finds plays. Art was that way for me. When things sort of broke down and I was moving around, all of a sudden there was Art. And I see the same thing with Travis and Patrick. Just a real innate ability to be able to find one another. And really it's Travis to a large degree understands the direction that Patrick is going in and then understands the way the defense is set up around him and gets into that little hole in the middle where Pat can get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, Joe, just to kind of piggyback on what Brian was saying there, we have arguments every week on this show about the receivers. I wanted to keep Tyreek Hill. I love the offense. Receiver's my favorite position. And so with the lack of top-end talent there, you mentioned it, Patrick's trying to do too much. He goes in post-game press conferences saying he got greedy. He needs to not do that. But I say that's who he is. It's in his nature. You can't cage a gunslinger, and that's what he is, a gunslinger. So he's going to try and attempt these things, and that's why we're seeing some more interceptions than we're used to seeing early on in the season. I think he has 5 now. So just how do you think this progresses? How do you think this comes along? And is it kind of the Chiefs' fault? I know we saw it last year with the receivers, but this year we're seeing it again. And it was really hard last year. It's really hard this year. We can't expect them to get all the way to a Super Bowl, making everything so hard on offense. I don't want to make it this hard on offense for Patrick.
No, and neither does Andy, trust me. But you make an interesting point. And for Patrick come out and say, hey, I need to be smarter. I need to know when to get rid of the football. I need to know when to dump the ball. He's smart, he gets out of bounds, he protects himself. But when you start running around back there, you never know when that one person is going to be in the place you don't expect him to be. Now, here's my argument to people talk about the wide receiver position. First of all, you can have too many. Because everybody's going to want the football, but there's only one football. And so, Dan Henning coached me. He was a head coach in Atlanta, was our offensive coordinator and quarterback coach in Washington. And we used to talk about the wide receiver position. The ideal scenario for that position is you need somebody big, you need somebody fast, you need somebody who can go over the middle, tough guy, and you need somebody who's elusive. That would be the perfect setup and an unselfish group of guys who doesn't care what the distribution looks like. Now, if you think of the New England Patriots and the run that they had winning 6 championships, name for me, other than a slot receiver and a tight end and Randy Moss, who played wide receiver for the New England Patriots.
God, Deion Branch,
David Patton,
Spot receiver.
Chris Hogan.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Not
Go
many.
ahead.
Julian Edelman.
We got 2. There we go. We got 2.
Wes Welker.
Julian Edelman.
Slot receiver.
Yeah.
How about wide receiver?
Rashay Caldwell.
Deion Branch.
Caldwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Okay.
Not many.
I rest my case. I think it sometimes when you have that one person, and Miami is unique because they've got, that's a track team. Okay. Let's that's the 4x100 track team that could run in the Olympics with those guys. And Tariq is a special receiver. I think if you wanted to look at the wide receivers, I don't know how he's viewed. I don't understand the power rankings, but to me, he's the most dynamic force in football today. Uncoverable, smart, protects himself well. And once he gets his hands on the ball, it's like Katie barred the door. It can run around you. He can run past you. He can do so many things with the football and without the football that make it so difficult for them to be able to be defended. And I think Tua's doing a great job of distributing the football, getting it out of its hands. That's the whole thing is you can't hold the football. We were talking about Justin Herbert. He was forced to hold the football a little longer than he wanted to last night. Mm-hmm. And if you hold the ball a little bit longer and you don't run around like Patrick does or make the plays, that we've seen other guys do from time to time. And I thought Dak did a really, really good job last night of escaping and creating opportunities. But if you can't do that, boy, you're getting killed. And I do want to say something. I played the position of quarterback. I played it at a different time in a different era where they didn't, they let us get hit. Let's put it that way. Okay. We got the ever-loving bejesus beat out of us. What I see today in some of these roughing the passer penalties, I'm distraught that if I was a defensive player or a defensive lineman or a linebacker or a blitzing corner or safety, it's really, really not good for football to keep throwing the flag when a guy gets pushed to the ground, when somebody is coming at full speed, they hit them and they don't put their full body weight on. Matter of fact, you see them open their arms up to make sure that they're showing that they're not trying to intentionally, and yet they continue to throw the flag. I understand that these guys make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I understand that you have to, quote unquote, protect the position, but this is starting to reach a point of absurdity in my mind. Mm. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, it happened to the Chiefs. It happened to the Chiefs against Denver. It extended the drive, and that's why they came away with 8 points because of our safety, Mike Edwards. He came in roughed Russell Wilson,
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And of course, we remember last year, Chris Jones clearly stripped the ball, and they called a personal foul. So it's crazy stuff like that.
I just listen. If a guy comes in and slams somebody with their body weight, fine, But if a guy gets pushed to the ground, that's not roughing. Here's one for you. Something that will never, ever happen in professional football. The most vulnerable person in football is who, in your mind?
Quarterback.
Kicker.
Yeah.
The punter. Okay? The man is off the ground, people running at him, his feet are up in the air, his foot's up in the air, extremely vulnerable position. There's 2 designations of penalties when it comes to kickers. Running into the kicker and roughing the kicker.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you consider that in the NFL? Roughing the quarterback and running into the quarterback.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, you're on to something.
I promise you, this will never, ever, ever be accepted. But it just, and here's one more for
Sounds
you.
like you've talked to Roger Goodell, Joe, about this.
I'm glad. Listen, I'm glad we're having this conversation. Here's the other thing: there are two challenges that coaches are allowed, and there's a menu that they get to choose from. The officials have a menu that they have to follow. Certain plays can't be challenged. Certain plays can be challenged. Why don't we just eliminate the can't be's and say every and any play in a game can be challenged? Don't increase the challenges.
Yeah.
As a coach, you only have two. You only use them judiciously. For example, the Indianapolis Colt game against the Baltimore Ravens. All right. Gardner Minshew stepped out of bounds. He was dropping back in the end zone. His foot was out of bounds. I don't believe that's challengeable. It should be. So my recommendation to the competition committee is, why not eliminate that little menu that you have and just let anything be challenged? You're not going to slow the game down because you're not giving anybody any more challenges. And go back to the New Orleans Saints playoff game. I can give you instance after instance after instance that it doesn't fall under the challengeable rule. And I think the game, I think the fans deserve it. I think the fans of certain teams, all 32 teams, deserve it. If something is so egregious and it happens, and the explanation is it's not challengeable, I find that unacceptable.
The gamblers deserve it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Joe. You just gave us one of our, greatest takes that, we can post all over. But, you were one of the greatest, I feel, athletes to turn into a commentator, media member.
Let's
I
go.
just want to know, what's your thoughts today of what you're seeing? Like, you have some former players coming out really bashing the players and saying stuff where, us media members are like, man, are they even taking classes or doing anything to have to be in that position? So I want to kind of know your journey from taking that step from athlete to being in the media world, and just how was the backlash from you going from a player to a media member? How did the players react to you when you did critique some of their mistakes and things like that?
My mom used to say all the time, it's never what you say, it's how you say it. And I think it's something I've tried to, follow. I've said things at times when I was wrong, and I've owned up to it. But when it comes to broadcasting a game, there's reasons why. See, I call it the what and why of telecasting. Your eyes will tell you what you see. My job in the booth is to tell you why you saw it. So in other words, let's just say somebody throws a touchdown pass. We saw that. That's the what. But the why is, did the defensive back bite on a move? Did the quarterback give him a little pump? Did the wide receiver do a great job of running his route? Did the safety not get over? There's all the whys. What happened? So I call broadcasting now the what and the why. Your eyes tell you what it is, and now it's our job to explain what happened. And let's say a corner just gets flat beat. Okay. Instead of coming out and say he did a lousy job, and say, the way I would, the way I like to hear it and the way I tried to present it was, the corner, he guessed that time. He's got great skills and great abilities. And this is one of the things that they really like about him, is his ability to anticipate, but sometimes that's going to jump up and bite you. Same exact result.
Yeah.
Complimented the person, but on that particular instance, you made a mistake.
Let's get that to Steve Smith and make sure he gnaws over that a little bit. Joe, we got the Washington Commanders at 3-3 here. New ownership group, Josh Harris with Magic Johnson kind of in there. Already talked about changing the name again. We've had this conversation with you ever since we started having you on in 2016, changing the name, and we're having that conversation again. You also have Eric Berry there in Washington, coaching Sam Howell in that offense. So just kind of talk about how you feel that Eric Berry, kind of his addition to the coaching staff has gone so far.
You mean Eric the enemy, right?
The enemy.
Eric the enemy.
Yeah, the guy that came from
EB.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel like that's gone so far?
I think it's going very well. And there's a great transition that happens between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. Again, coordinators will call plays. And if Sam's done a terrific job of transitioning into the position. He's tough. He's smart, gets the ball out of his hands. It really looks like that Eric and Sam are really getting on the same page. Again, when offensive coordinators call plays, they call them for specific reasons. So it's more than just the quarterback position knowing what the play is, but knowing why it happened. There we go with what and why again. Why did he call this? Let's say you're on Washington and Atlanta are playing. You're on Atlanta's 35-yard line. Okay, you call a deep route, knowing that you're on third down, knowing that you're going to go for it on fourth. So you take a look at the shot. If not, you throw it away, knowing full well that that's what the intention is of the coordinator. So understand why the plays are called. And this is, I think, you're really starting to see a much more cohesive operation from Eric and Sam. And it wasn't, in the beginning of the year, heck, they're both learning one another. Eric's still learning this offense.
Sure.
You've got, Jahan Dotson can just catch everything. Terry McLaurin, Pro Bowler. Curtis Samuel's bounced back over the last 2 years, really been a big part of it. Logan Thomas is back. So and you've got, and Brian Robinson. You've got 5 guys that you got to figure out a way to get the football to them because they're all impact players in one way or another. But I think that Eric has done a terrific job transitioning in. I think he holds the guys accountable, and Ron does the same thing. They're 3-3, and they've got you've got now some tough times. You got Dallas twice, you got Philadelphia again, you got the Giants twice this weekend. You play the AFC East, which is a yeoman's effort unto itself. So
we used to get the Patriots.
Yep. Well, if your quarterback doesn't play well, you can't win.
Yeah.
Bottom line. It's just the bottom line. The quarterback position has to be in a place where it can complement maybe some of the things around it. And when you're asked to make plays, you have to make them, or else, they're going to start looking.
Hey, your former coach, Joe Gibbs, I find to be one of the most underrated coaches of all time in the NFL, 3-time Super Bowl winner. I just want to know, what was it like playing under him, and what did you take from him being your coach?
First of all, he's an incredible human being. Above all, above his Hall of Fame status in NASCAR, his Hall of Fame status in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he's an incredible human being and one of my dearest friends. And I drove Joe crazy. I'm a little bit high strung. And Joe used to sleep at Redskin Park Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night. And we'd have I'd come in for my Wednesday morning meeting because we get Monday and Tuesday off. They call them victory days off. I'd come in Wednesday morning about 7:30. We're going to start our meeting, and he'd be walking down the hall with a cup of coffee, and I go, "Hey, Coach, how you doing, man? I can't wait to get started." He would turn around and literally walk back in his office for 10 minutes of peace before he had to deal with me. But Joe was so inventive and so creative with our offense. He used to do something, and Andy Reid does this. We see this during the game with Andy. You come up with different formation, different plays. Doug Peterson does the same thing. He did it in Philadelphia, he does it in Jacksonville. We used to practice a play, whether it was 3 tight ends, and we'd have Art Monk in the backfield, John Riggins on the wing, and we would use it during the game. Matter of fact, Super Bowl 17 against the Miami Dolphins, we had what was called an explode package. And Saturday night, we're sitting in the meeting, getting ready, going over our final preparation for the game. And it was where everybody lined up down around the goal line in different positions, because Miami used to match up man on man, linebackers on backs and tight ends, wide receivers, corners could be covered by them. So we had a hodgepodge. We had an operation. So Joe said, "Look," he said, "we're going to run this explode package because I'm curious to see what the announcers are going to say." And it actually, the touchdown pass that Alvin Garrett caught was a product of that particular play in the Super Bowl. But Joe he was so good in so many different situations. And really, when it came to adjusting at halftime, phenomenal. We would pare everything down. You go in with a big menu, and then you pare it on down. And you say, okay, these are the things we're going to focus on. These are the things that they're doing. And these are the opportunities that we're going to try and take shots with. And we'd wind up with right after halftime, we'd wind up with 3 or 4 shots that we felt like we could get an advantage in. And most of the time it worked. But it was Joe's ability to adjust, his vision, his ability to call plays. And, I was blessed with one of the best offensive lines in football and one of the greatest running backs that ever played the game. So, and then, I got a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a Hall of Fame running back. 2 of my offensive linemen, should be 3. Joe Jacoby should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, I was very blessed on that side of the ball. Here's something that nobody really realizes, how good our defense was. Because it's such an offensive game today, people focus on the offense a lot. First of all, San Francisco, I think, barring what happened this past week, was one of the most incredible defenses in football today. But in 1983, the year of 1983, our defense our giveaway takeaway ratio was plus 43.
Wow.
So if you want to have some fun, whoever does your stats or something, look at the giveaway takeaway ratio over the last 20 years. See if anybody's even gotten into 20.
Nah.
We took the ball away a little over 2 times a game from giving it up to our opponents. That's how great these guys were.
That's crazy.
I mean, you asked before about defenses. We were blessed. I mean, I was blessed to have the compliment. And Mark Mosley was a MVP kicker. So it was a very complete football team in so many ways. But Joe was the one that made it happen. We handled our own situations in our own locker room. You didn't have the media coverage that exists today. You didn't have social media.
Yeah.
If there was an issue or there was a question, we had very few, or ever seldom did we have one. The guys would sort of take care of it in the locker room and say, our locker room was ours. I played for Joe Gibbs for, I think, 6 years. I saw him in our locker room maybe 6 times. He would walk out of the coach's locker room, right through the equipment room, right outside. I mean, he let us handle our own locker room, and
wow.
It was our place. I mean, so many things that he did. I look at coaching because when I was in broadcasting, I had the keys to the library. To football, I meet with general managers, owners, coaches, players, equipment staff, medical staff. I had a chance to visit with everybody and learn. And the things I learned from Coach Gibbs are the things I see in football teams that do very well today. The discipline they have, giving the players a chance to be themselves, not trying to run a system, but trying to fit the system to the personnel that's there.
Yes.
Amen to that. That's a good point. It's kind of about how I felt about the quarterbacks who were all being drafted early and then forgot about 2 years in. But specifically to you, Joe, 1985, you were 36 years old. You just turned 36 as that season was starting. Did you know going into that season, or how many years did you plan on playing before the injury? Did you go into that season thinking, I'm 36, I might play until I'm 38? Or were you going into 1985 thinking that was going to be one of your last 2 years?
Well, 1984, I signed a 5-year contract.
Okay.
I had every intention of, I didn't know whether I'd last the full contract. I had every intention of trying to play at least a couple more years.
Right.
And you got to remember, back in 85, when I was 35 when I got hurt. When you were 35 years old, you were viewed differently than they are today.
Right.
Yeah.
At the age of 35, they were looking for that next year. They wanted Jay Schrader to be the quarterback. Jay wound up playing for a while, and then Doug came in and Rip came in and, got a couple more championships in Washington. But I'd had every intention, hopefully wanted to play longer than just that one extra year into my contract.
So,
go ahead, Mike. My bad.
So Joe, I want to talk, when you first got on, you talked about John and handing the ball off to John. Just looking at the running back position today, we see what's going on with their battle to try to get contracts and get paid. What's your thoughts on, the running back position today, and what can be done possibly to make sure that they're paid the way that they feel. Because, guys like Bijan Robinson come in ready to go from the jump. Eventually, they can have him under his rookie contract, I believe, about 4 or 5 years.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and about that time, that's when they're like, all right, might be time up for you. Where he's like, no, it's finally time for me to really get paid, but that opportunity never comes. What do you think can happen, and how can the NFL help these running backs get their what they're worth?
I really don't know what can happen. You look at the numbers that players are being paid. I do think that the running back position today is undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at the Giants last year and Saquon's contribution to it. You look at Jacobson with the Raiders. I mean, you look around the league and you see how valuable the running back position is. It doesn't have a long shelf life. We know that.
Yeah.
But I think the other part of it is it's just the way the salaries are broken down and broken out. I know these guys tried to get together and try and do something, but in our business, they have a way of finding somebody else. If you don't want to play, we'll find somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I think that the value of the running back position is devalued today. I think they're really important. I know how important it was to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I look and I'm not one of these guys that goes back to yesteryear and says, well, it was like this then. Even in the game today, you look at the value of the running back. Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
What are the Tennessee Titans without him?
Yep.
So there's you can
McCaffrey.
7 running backs. You can take 6, 7 running backs and say, hey, look, what does this team look like without these guys? And what are their chances of winning? And they're not as great without them.
Yep.
Brian, did you have something real quick?
Oh, man, I had 2 more questions, but I'll go with my better one. I've got to circle back to your broadcasting career, Joe, because, man, I was telling the guys off air, like, Sunday Night Football was better to me back in the day. It's great now, but back in the day, it was better than Monday Night Football. And Monday Night Football was, where all the glitz and glamour per se was. That's what they got all the big games. But, man, in your broadcasting career, what is one thing that you miss about it? And why aren't you at CBS or NBC or some, like, you're still sharp. You still got it, bro. You were one of my favorite color commentators back in the day with Mike Patrick. And then you moved to the 3-man booth with McGuire. Please talk about your broadcasting career.
We had fun. We had the most fun. I talked to Mike not too long ago, and I talked to Paul. Paul was great. Paul would never take a note in our production meetings. But before you meet with the teams, right? So Paul would never take a note. He would take one note. So I asked him one day, I said, Paulie, I'm sitting there writing things down and Paul's gone. I said, Paul, why just one note? He said, Joe. He said, how are you able to listen to what people are saying if you're writing things down? So I said, okay, that's a fair explanation. But he had such an overview of the game. I was a little more technical about it. And Mike was the mortar that held it together. I worked at CBS initially, then I worked at ESPN, did games for ABC, then went to the NFL Network. I mean, I did Thursday night, Sunday afternoon, Monday nights. I did them all. And in the 23 years I did broadcasting, I loved every minute of it. What I really enjoyed was getting to know and to, first of all, learn about the game. I got my favorite saying. I'm doing a speech here in Miami tomorrow, and one of the things I stress is the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. And what broadcasting allowed me to do was to learn so much more about the game and different philosophies inside the game from different coaches, from different general managers, from different players, how they approach the game. Larry Fitzgerald, watched him at Arizona. After practice was over, in an unbelievable sweltering heat, catch 50 to 60 balls extra. You wonder why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. No, I don't wonder. I've witnessed the difference in what makes great players and what makes players that have great potential and don't quite get there. So for me, it was the opportunity to be able to learn more about the game and to learn more about the guys that played the game.
Absolutely. The best crew, in my money, in NFL history was you, Mike, and Paul. I mean, I go back and just watch old games so I can hear you guys call a game again. It was the best. And Joe, before we get you out of here, you've been so gracious with your time. We can't thank you enough. I got to ask about these quarterbacks. There's been a lot of talk. Is Brock Purdy elite? Is he just really good? Is it the system?
Yep.
And to me, this word elite, it gets thrown around too much. To me, it might just be Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. That might be it. You see Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. They have kind of games where they go into a lull, and then they have the big mistakes late in games when you can't have it that cost their teams. And then is Brock Purdy a leader? Is he just really good and a really good system with Kyle Shanahan? So talk a little bit about the quarterbacks and elite versus really good. And if we're using this word elite just a little too much.
I think, Patrick Mahomes is elite. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I mean, when you don't win championships not being that and making plays like he has. I think there are a lot of really, really good guys in this game. Ritter's coming on. I think Sam Howell, I'm very thrilled with Sam's doing in Washington. Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I mean, you look at different guys, and I think Brock Purdy is in the perfect situation with Kyle Shanahan. It's hard to say if somebody's elite when they've only played what, 9, 10 games, 13 or 10 games. I mean, to me, you want to be able to see somebody play consistently over 2 or 3 years, 4 years. Are you the guy that can get it done? And one of the things that bothers me is I hear people so often talk about, well, this guy's just a manager of the game and that guy's just a manager of the game. That's our number one job. Tom Brady was a manager of the game. Peyton Manning was a manager of the game. That's what we do at the quarterback position. Brock does an excellent job managing that offense. Eric and Sam are growing into Sam's ability to manage that offense. Josh is doing the same thing up in Buffalo. Jalen in Philadelphia, Patrick in Kansas City. Justin, he was under duress last night in San Diego and with the Chargers. So, the term elite is, I think you have to win. Bottom line, you have to win and win on a consistent basis. But I'll go back to what I said before, guys. The quarterback position is the single most dependent position on the field. And if you don't have the pieces around you, it's very difficult to function at any level except run for your life.
Yeah, we see that with Justin Fields. We see that he may have the talent, but he's running for his life behind that Bears offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it's you look around at different teams, and it's like I said, this is the thing that I enjoyed in broadcasting was I could get inside that, and and truthfully, when I was in broadcasting and I could walk into a locker room, you can feel the vibes. It's like you guys have a great chemistry back and forth, and one guy sort of takes up and has a chance to ask a question, the other guy sort of step back, and it's fun to do an interview like this. It's fun to do an interview by people like you who give you a chance to look at it, and everybody else says, okay, I got another question for you. It's wonderful. It's being a part of the team, walking into a locker room and feeling the vibes. You can sense whether they like one another. You can sense that there's an energy. You can sense that there isn't an energy. You can sense that there's, one part of the locker room belongs to somebody. The other part belongs to somebody else. And that's why you see so many coaches today. You have guys sitting in different places. You just don't have defense one place, offense another place. You want to be able to mix the guys so that they get a quote unquote team feeling about what's going on. It starts in the locker room.
Well, what you said right there about us, Joe, we can't thank you enough. That was amazing and wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't do this often for every guest, but we just got to give you a round of applause, guys. Joe's been so gracious.
And guys, we got to make sure we've had so many great comments, people that enjoy hearing Joe talk. If you want to read one of the best NFL books, we got it right here.
Yes.
You can go to his website, joetheismann.com, How to Be a Champion Every Day, 6 Timeless Keys to Success. And if you want to book him, he's speaking to Miami, come have him out. He'll cut you a deal. Just use the promo code Clint Schweitzer and he'll cut you the deal. It's right there. No, book Joe. He's the best, man.
Hey, Joe, before you get up out of here,
yeah,
if you could pick right now, what's your Super Bowl matchup after seeing, over a month of football?
Come on, man. Are you kidding? Come on. I still in the NFC, You know, Dallas's defense is awesome. Micah Parsons to me is just an incredible. That's another conversation for another time because they're comparing him to Lawrence Taylor. Again, let's see over a little bit longer period of time, but he's something special. San Francisco's defense, I think, is very special as well, and defense wins championships. You know, Kansas City, they're stepping up. I think it's very difficult right now. I mean, you got Philadelphia, so they lost a game. You know, everybody's, well, okay, it's done and over with. Miami in the AFC, still dynamic as all get out. I think home field advantage is going to be very important going forward. Once we get into the playoffs of who winds up hosting in the playoffs. Right now, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, it's wide open. Both AFC and NFC, in my opinion, there's 4 or 5 teams on either side that they're wide open.
Well said. We'll have you back on in December, and we will hold your feet to the fire, Joe, at that time.
I'm sure
How about that?
Will.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Joe.
Mr. Theismann.
Always an honor, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that kicked
Oh,
ass.
that was amazing.
Hey,
He's the best.
Clint, did you inhale some helium for a second there, or
What happened? I was looking at a bunch of notes. I'm looking at like new ownership group for the Washington Commanders, and I'm like, don't call in the Redskins. And then I called Eric Berry,
I'm not
my top 10 least favorite Chiefs of all time.
What?
least favorite Chiefs?
I just wanted
Eric Berry.
I just wanted to deflect from my little Freudian slip there. Okay, that's all.
Oh God! Oh Clint!
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm not even going to dive into that.
Hey,
No,
but
I'm kidding.
My favorite.
what Joe said about that, I can't believe I never thought of that. The like the running into the
quarterback. Yeah,
that would be the greatest rule that you can have, because some of the stuff that they're calling nowadays is like, come on, man. You know, it's like these guys are not getting as hit as hard as soccer players, and they're calling these penalties. So
yeah, we saw one with
doing something like that will be amazing.
Richard Sherman wants to get rid of illegal contact and have it.
Yeah, Mike Edwards roughing the passer. That wasn't roughing the passer.
Yeah, well, we saw Josh Allen against the Giants. It was a similar situation. It just seems to be building. This happened last year. Michael, I think, alluded to it. The Derek Carr play, and so that and I think Joe's right. And I think we talked to Dean Blandino. Maybe we need to get Dean and Joe on at the same time, connect some dots, and try to get some of these rules going, because Joe has always been somebody that to me just has such a sharp mind for the game. And it's like when you hear him talk about this stuff, it really makes sense. And like you said, it's stuff that I never would have thought of that myself. I never would have been like, well, you know, if they just had 2 different categories for a roughing penalty. Great stuff. And guys, thanks so much for the comments.
As always, just 5-yard penalty,
right?
Automatic first down.
I hate the illegal contact and the defensive holdings that are on 3rd and 18 that give you a first down. Actually, I think it worked for the Dallas Cowboys last night in their favors. Yeah, I'll take that. But guys, I just want to thank you all for the comments, for sticking with us. And
shouts to all the allies in the building.
There were so many allies, and we didn't realize that we have a 6th ally, other than Joe Theismann, who clearly is one of them now. But somebody in the comments way up there said, Michael, you're trying to get Brandon Staley fired. Do you not realize that that Coach Staley is another unofficial Arrowhead ally?
He is. He really is. And when you all were having that conversation about Justin Herbert earlier, I wanted to allude to that. Like, thank God they didn't get Sean Payton, because they would be dangerous with him. Seriously,
his record might be better than 27-27. Same as
no, it would be. Look, most of those losses have come from the coach's seat. Let's be honest here. Most of them have. Some on Herbert. Herbert has made. Look, he's made his mistakes, which hasn't been. Look, I'm just trying to say it hasn't all been on him. It hasn't been all on Herbert.
Certainly.
But these 4th down calls, the debacle against the Raiders a couple years ago, that was essentially a playoff game. It's so many instances of Brandon Staley making flagrant calls, dog, and you know, kind of ruining the prime of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, most losses by 3 points or less. The RAFC West brethren are right there in the last 2 seasons. Broncos, Chargers, Raiders.
Can't relate.
You'll love to see it.
and to be honest, man, when it comes to the Chargers, you know, with the Chiefs matching up with them this weekend, a lot of the Chiefs wins is because Mahomes can go down and get a score, and Justin Herbert can't go down and get any points. And I think that's the difference when the Chiefs match up with the Chargers is that at the end of the game, we're very confident. Oh, we got 15, we got 87. They're going to find a way to make it happen. Even with the weapons that the Chargers have with Justin Herbert, you're really like, I don't know. So even last night's game, I was like, okay, you have 2 minutes. If it was the Chiefs, I'm like, oh, Pat is going to at least get 3 points. So let me get ready for overtime or a Chiefs victory. With Justin Herbert, it's really like, let's see. And then he throws an interception, and that's game, because that's the difference between elite and I think good quarterbacks. There's a bunch of good quarterbacks that can get numbers, that can even win maybe a playoff game. But those elite guys can get you over the top and get you into the Super Bowl like Stafford, like Mahomes, like Joe Burrow.
Well, specifically to Justin Herbert, he's 2-1 at Arrowhead, and in his victory in 2021, it was a late drive where he did take him down the field, and for some reason he expeditiously scored with 50 seconds left in the game rather than milking it down. But that's neither here nor there because Mahomes didn't go down the field and win it. So he has our respect because he's got that potential. Like you can, I know some people might be saying, hold on, Shaggy. His first win at Arrowhead was against a bunch of backups because they already had the bye, but still that stat's going to be thrown up in our face, and he's going to have a lot of confidence going in. And the only reason he lost last year was a 100-yard interception or 99-yard interception return by Jalen Watson. So
let me jump on that. Okay, and why did he throw that interception?
Because
he was hurt.
The tight end,
but he was hurt too, though.
Pass rush.
Ribs is hurting. Pass rush got there.
Dana was tearing him up.
What was that? Snead or Dana got him earlier in the ribs.
The
O-line. It's the O-line. It's coaching. It's both of those. You don't get ahead 26-0 in a playoff game against the Jaguars and lose. Right. It's because of coaching.
I mean, a little, yeah, but if you're up, I think it was actually 27-0 against the Jags, and let it just piddle away all the way down the stretch. I'd say I can't see Mahomes doing that, but I see Justin Herbert doing that a lot. We can say we've seen Mahomes do it against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, sadly.
But you know what's crazy? What nobody's talking about, not even really here in LA, because it's so much on Staley, so much on Justin Herbert. It's that defense. I think the last few years, we always expected that defense to be like one of those top 5, top 10 defenses that always made it tough. You got James, you got Murray there in the second level. You have Bosa, you have Khalil Mack, who just had 5 sacks in a game. But that defense has never been as great as everybody expected it to be, and that has really been a problem. They added J.C. Jackson. Remember the days where everybody would call pretty much like he was prime time joining the Niners or Cowboys. The expectation was that this is how they beat the Chiefs, but that defense hasn't been exactly what everyone needed it to be. So all the pressure is on Justin Staley, on Justin Herbert. But Staley's a defensive guy. If you can't get this defense right, it has to be a change, and that's why I think it's that time to get rid of Staley there for the Chargers.
Well, maybe so, because they're not in the playoff picture. As of 6 weeks, we're looking at the AFC playoff picture. Joe Theismann wouldn't like this. I'm sure Shane doesn't like this. He wants to wait till January to talk about this, but we're going to look at it anyway, as the Chiefs are the number 1 seed right now. The Browns and Steelers sneak in above the Bengals is right now. I think the Browns and Steelers kind of cheated because they've only played 5 games, so they haven't had a chance to go 3-3 like the Bengals. But that's your playoff picture right now, and I'd love to see the Browns get in, except maybe not, because I don't want to face that defense.
Yeah, that Browns defense is ferocious. That's the only reason you win with PJ Walker against the Niners. I don't give a damn if McCaffrey and Debo Samuel were out. Look, man, the AFC it's I don't want to say it's deeper than what we thought because I need to see the season play out a little bit more. But the Ravens, I think that's a team that that kind of heightens my alerts in my head a little bit, is the Ravens, not necessarily the Dolphins, but the Ravens I think are a sneaky good team that nobody's looking at.
Hold on, you said that so casually.
Oh, okay, yes. Oh, the Dolphins. Let's have a conversation about them, shall we? While the weather is nice and bright, okay, while the sun is shining.
You always say that. I mean,
yes, and you saw what happened last year, right?
They had
Skylar Thompson.
Okay, so.
What do you mean?
You have
they almost won.
Hill,
they almost won at Buffalo.
Jalen Waddle. Okay, you're supposed to go deep into the playoffs, fam.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
this
saying,
year,
Skylar
it's-
Thompson?
Lamar Jackson has one playoff win in his career. So
again, wait till the weather after Thanksgiving. All that cute stuff that the Dolphins are doing.
Pretty much all home
not
games
gonna
after
work.
Thanksgiving.
yeah, Clint, man, I'm happy you said that, you know, when it comes to Lamar Jackson, because honestly, looking at the Browns, looking at the Dolphins, the Ravens, it's all the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs are going to decide.
that might be the point. Yeah, you might have a point there.
In this AFC, if their offense and the receivers can get it together, how this defense is playing, if they can keep it going, I think the Chiefs can easily waltz into the Super Bowl, where the NFC looks like it's going to be tough with three teams there at the top with the Eagles, Niners, and the Detroit Lions, who I hope the Chiefs can get a rematch with so bad.
Shane might have it. Shane, you might have been on to something in August.
Yes.
Yeah.
Specifically to the Chiefs, Charles Omenihu's return is going to be a huge plus.
Yes.
It's huge because the Chiefs are already getting pressure on the quarterbacks. Granted, Spagnuolo still, if the opposition gets inside the 50, Spags is going to start blitzing. Have you noticed that? It seems like when the opposition starts a drive at the 10 or the 20-yard line, he won't blitz. But once you get near the Chiefs inside the 50, he's going to start blitzing. And I think having Omenihu back is going to be huge.
Shane.
Drew Tranquil's playing at a high level that we didn't have before. We didn't see this before, but he had an important sack last Thursday night when the Broncos were getting momentum. You know, the Chiefs defense is something to believe in. I kind of wish
Let's look at it right here.
Let's look at it. Look at these, babe. Look at these stats.
Guys, this show is finally hitting its like mid-season stride. Today was that day.
Heck,
it's kind of like, Shane, going back to your point with the defense not really, buckling up into the 50-yard line. It's like they're kind of experimenting on the opponent's side of the field. They're kind of letting them kind of, get what they want. Maybe you take a chance on a zero blitz on a third down or something, and maybe they'll get it. But again, once they cross that logo, once they get over there, the Chiefs really buckle in. And I think the sweet spot of this Chiefs defense and where they play their best is between like the 50 and the opponent's 30. It's like that's where they get a lot of big plays. They get a lot of sacks, taking guys out of field goal range. And man, you're on to something, because I noticed that too, especially in that Denver game when they really just plastered the Broncos. I don't know what area I want the logo midfield I want to call it. They really plastered the Broncos in that area of the field last game.
Heck yes.
And for as much as I want to complain about the offense, and will continue to, because that's what I do, that's what we do here. The offense.
I hate to do it.
Yes, but we do have some impressive numbers, better than I would have thought going into it. I kind of wanted to just fib and put 32nd there, but I stayed true to the stats. In points per game, they're 9th. In yards per game, they're 4th. Chargers are up there as well, so we've got that to contend with, but we have the defense, like we just looked at, to contend with that Chargers offense.
So many defenses are getting better. Look around the league. The fact that the Chiefs defense has improved to where it is indicative of what this league is looking like. Gosh, I'm not going to say I completely agree with Jason Whitlock that says all these quarterbacks out here are trash. Don't compare them to the era of Brady and Elway and Manning and Brady and all these great quarterbacks of years past. Jason Whitlock took it too far, but his point being that the defenses out there, you just heard Joe Theismann run through the defenses. We talked about the Browns. We talked about the San Francisco 49ers. But the fact that the Chiefs have the defense it does should scare the hell out of the National Football League.
Yeah!
If you have a defense that can go into a Super Bowl and you're not down 20-10 to the Niners, you're not down 24-14 to the Philadelphia Eagles, that's going to be the key here. And I think for the Chiefs, the defensive improvement is also indicative of a league-wide movement almost to get better on the defensive side of the ball. No, not one team, right, scored more than 26 points this week.
Yeah.
Is that a one-off, or is that where this could be heading with?
Oh, that's where it's going.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Could be right.
The defenses are
Unless
ahead
to the
right
Dolphins,
now, man. Yeah.
But you know what? I saw, I can't remember, it was ESPN Fox, but they were talking about a lot of defenses are like keeping everything in front, 2 safeties deep, keeping everything in front. So it comes down to nickel and diamond. And you could kind of blame Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, because they were doing it at such a dominant level. They said, no way can we allow this. Let's make sure that we keep everything in front. So that's why I see so many teams getting yards and their yards per game looking crazy. But it comes down to the red zone. And that's where the Chiefs are kind of struggling to go and get those touchdowns, to where, you know, it has to be more than just Kelsey. So I was in the building Sunday for the Cardinals-Rams game, and a guy that I was like, yo, if the Chiefs somehow get Hollywood Brown, how amazing that will be for the offense.
Is it possible, fellas?
Man,
I don't know if I want him. It's too late. He's not great. What are we going to have to give up for him?
A 5th round pick. Come on.
Does he know the
Yeah,
offense?
I might do it
That
for
take?
I thought it might be more. Third,
He's got 300 yards receiving with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. He had Lamar Jackson before that. I like Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
I would be all about it.
I agree.
Just me.
Well, we got till the 30th, so we got what, 2 weeks?
We will talk more about that on our trade deadline show.
Yes.
But this sounds like a good transition to our wide receiver weekly check-in.
Yay.
Brian's favorite topic here. Tyreek Hill, 42 catches, 814 yards, average of 19.4 and 6 touchdowns. Every Chiefs receiver I could find on the roster that has a stat, 70 catches, 857 yards, 12.2 average.
Is Tyreek going to get to 2K for real?
Yeah.
He has a chance.
That is
Definitely.
insane. Like Joe Theismann said, there was no bigger impact player. And I've said this, and the stats aren't going to bear it out yet. You love guys in history like a Chris Carter, like Jerry Rice or Randy Moss, so many great receivers. I think Tyreek Hill is closer to number 1 all time than he is 10th. That's how good and electrifying and different and unique this player is. And he stayed injury-free throughout most of his career, whereas a lot of guys like him, like a Percy Harvin, you know, that played a kind of a similar role, would be hurt. Tyreek Hill, guys, is the real deal. We know it. We've seen it. Yeah. And I'm just going to keep giving him his props. And I played receiver myself. I never did a backflip with a cell phone in my hand, cell phone selfie. That was a new one. I missed the celebrations. And
I tried it once. I was in a full body cast for 3 months. So
one thing we need to remember when we're talking about Tyreek Hill, you know, besides the fact that he is in the MVP running, I don't care people say, he won't win. He is legitimately in the MVP running. What we need to remember is the opposing defenses when Tyreek Hill was our wide receiver number 1. We're figuring out how to cover him, and it was screwing with Patrick Mahomes. And we saw it in the second half of the AFC.
He could still take a short pass and go 60 like we saw against the Bills. It wasn't just, they took away the deep, it's over, we can't do anything. Tyreek Hill's useless.
I know, but it was reality.
This wide receiving core is screwing with Patrick. He's got 5 interceptions. He's still chucking it deep because he's greedy and he's a gunslinger. And he's like, I've got to do this. This is boring. I can't play like Alex Smith. Just that.
Hey.
And it's an interception. He's like, I don't know. This sucks. I don't have Tyreek. Bummer.
Noah.
Patrick Mahomes says, let me say this real quick, Michael. I want everybody to have the rebuttal. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes says, he keeps saying it every press conference, we want to surprise the teams. We want them to not know where we're coming. When Tyreek Hill, when we collapsed, guys, I know it sucks. He did do excellent against the Bills in that 13-second game.
Did excellent all the time.
We fell apart with him. And that's where we're trying to
not fall apart with Tyreek Hill.
Yes, we did.
In the second half of
that Bengals game.
The Bengals game. No, you will not put that on Tyreek Hill. You will not do it. It was Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, I don't blame him for much, but I will blame him for that. They called RPOs, and instead of giving the ball when they're dropping 8 men and have 3 guys on the defensive line, he was pulling it out and trying to throw the ball. He lost his mind in overtime and kept throwing to Demarcus Robinson. Andy Reid did not run the ball against dropping 8 men. It was insane. That is not on Tyreek Hill. You won't do it.
The locker room, bro. It's more than that. It's the locker room, bro. Yeah, hell yes, the locker room. Tyreek Hill wanted to be the man. That's why he's not here. He wanted to be the man. So he
wanted what he deserved once he saw the Devontae Adams contract. He's like, well, I deserve just as much as that, if not more. So I want $30 million. The Chiefs are offering me 25 or 26. And my whole family's in Miami and it's great weather. Sweet. I'm going down there. And so this is perfect transition to this. I brought up this poll question. It went exactly how I thought it would. Would you send those players to Miami for Tyreek, essentially reversing the trade? These are the players we got. I've got to stop this narrative of people saying, well, if we kept Tyreek, we would get rid of all our young defensive players. No, you would get rid of one, and maybe our best one, Trent McDuffie. That is a tough one, but that's one you got to get rid of.
It ain't no blood. That's the strength of the team. That's the strength of the team right now.
I was going to say that.
Like the defensive backs, that's the best group overall on the
Yeah.
team right now.
You'd
So
still have
yes,
Steve, you still have Watson, you still have Williams.
Bro, you have to balance it out, man. You
Mhm.
have to. You can't spend all of your money on offense. You
You
can't
would
do
you
it.
wouldn't have in 2022 and 2023. As you see the contract right there, 2022 he made $6.5 million as a cap hit. That's less than $2 million over what MVS was making this year. 12.8. That's 1.8, still less than $2 million over what MVS is making. He's giving you nothing. Obviously, the contract jumps up after that, 31, 34, 56 in 2026, which he'll never see that money. They'll restructure or extend him. And so that's why I have MVS and Jawan Taylor on here, because you'd have to get rid of them to equal out the salary that it hits in 2024.
Yeah.
And that's
Just don't have
fine.
a right tackle. Just don't.
Oh yeah, there would be air there. There's no human
Don't
playing.
have a right tackle.
Yeah,
Y'all
you're
act like, hold on. Y'all act like Jawan Taylor has been awful.
It's not that. It's
No,
not that.
you could find someone to be serviceable at that position, not get the penalties.
See, that's the
and not
Chargers
$80 million.
attitude. That's the Chargers attitude. And you see where they at.
The Chargers' attitude is that across the entire offensive line. It's not just one position. We have a good offensive line. If
No,
you just
but do
if you have
you
a
see who they're paying?
we
You
won a
see who
Super
they're
Bowl with
paying.
Andrew Wiley. We won a Super Bowl with Andrew Wiley.
Do you see who they're paying? Do you see who they're paying? Do you see who they're paying and where
I
they
see
are?
they
They're
don't
on
have
the
Patrick
bench.
Mahomes. I see
They're
that.
on the bench. They're on the bench. So, bro, you got to balance the cap, man. What you can't.
That's what we're doing right here. This is balancing the cap for you.
No, you want to sacrifice the O-line for a wide receiver?
I'm sacrificing Jawan Taylor, not the entire offensive line. I didn't send Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith,
It's your
Joe
right
Thuney, and
tackle,
Donovan
though.
Smith.
It's your right tackle, though.
What is that?
Excuse me? All right,
Lucas Niang ever playing football here? We have a 3rd round pick. You have Darian Kennard, who was a 5th round pick.
Put him on the field and watch Patrick Mahomes not play next week.
Hey, Noah,
we had Andrew Wiley all last season, and it was fine.
I hate to say this, but when we had MVS in the playoffs versus the Bengals last year, we won because of his big
just
game.
fine.
And versus
he has 7 catches.
And he stepped up in the Jaguars game with Chad Henne at quarterback. What we talking about?
You wouldn't have to be wondering who's stepping up if we had Tyreek Hill.
He was the number.
Sure,
we don't know.
Yeah.
Tyreek had some tough games, as well. He wasn't just dominating every game. But the Chiefs are looking at themselves like the Patriots. Do we want to win a couple years with Tyreek, or do we want to have a dynasty where we can win maybe 5?
I don't think it's either or. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think.
Because, by the way, Shane, who's throwing the football back and forth, come in, because before
this is Shane's favorite
that deal happened, before that trade happened, Shane, you were trying to give Tyreek Hill all of the money that we all have between us and $200 million more.
And I was like, Shane, calm down. And then next day you said $200 million.
Of course. I was like that for Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
I think we all were. I think we all wanted to make Tyreek Hill the number 1 highest paid wide receiver, but it didn't happen. We benefited. We won the Super Bowl. Patrick and Travis got 2 Super Bowl rings. Tyreek's 1.
Yeah.
That's the rearview mirror, man.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill better get a Super Bowl ring this year, or he's never going to hear it. He's going to be like, damn, Patrick and Travis got 1 more than me, and it's eating at him.
I don't think he cares, honestly, about that stuff.
Yeah, he just wants money. He's just having fun. He wants to do his podcast.
Exactly. He wants to be a porn star, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Really? Here we go.
I'm sorry.
He wants to be a porn star.
Sorry for bringing that up.
Hey, but how good Trent McDuffie is,
he's nowhere near how good Tyreek Hill is at his position.
But look at Trent McDuffie might make that closer, the comparison closer than not, because Trent McDuffie is just special. And what he's able to do,
he's a really good corner. I don't think he's special.
Trent McDuffie on Tyreek
just like we throw words elite around too much. Special.
I think that because not only is he a great lockdown corner, he tackles, he can pass rush, he can do everything from the corner position, and that fits exactly what the Chiefs need. And you need a guy like McDuffie. Imagine we didn't have McDuffie and we're throwing out just Snead and Williams and a guy like, I don't know who else you could put.
Trent McDuffie was hurt for the first 5 games last year. This team was 4-1 through those 5. I mean,
they took that next step defensively when he was there because they had a for sure guy that they know along with Snead. Okay, either these guys can shut down a number 1. So you take that away, and it adds more pressure to the Williams and Watson, who you guys aren't too big of fans of. So the Chiefs won a Super Bowl. The Chiefs continue to look great. They have to figure it out at the receiver position. The trust between Mahomes and the receiver has to be better, because if you watch last week's game, it's still the same thing. It's guys open, but Mahomes is kind of like, I don't know if this guy will make this play yet, to where he has to let it rip. And then some of it he's trying, like Theismann said, he's trying to make the Superman play, where, just take the 5-yard pass to a guy underneath
Against
and
his nature.
continue to go. I came in expecting the offense to look different this year anyway. I thought they would lean a little bit more towards Pacheco. So, this offense is going to continue to grow, but they continue to win games. And that's what matters most, because if they keep doing what they're doing, they take care of business Sunday, they could possibly be having home field advantage once again. And that's going to give the Chiefs all that they need to make it back to the Super Bowl.
Byron here brings up a good point, talking about the red zone woes. Go ahead, Shane.
Yes, I'd love Justin Ross to be in there, to be playing. Please, we don't know. I mean, was Richie James supposed to come off injured reserve this week? And how injured is Justin Watson? How many weeks specifically is he going to miss? Wednesday practice tomorrow, maybe we'll find out more specifically to Richie James' return, Justin Watson's injury. But yes.
Does anybody want Richie James to return?
See, that's what I'm talking about. This guy wants Justin Ross. I want Justin Ross. He makes too much sense. He goes up for the ball and makes the catch with his hands. He's a hands receiver. All he has to do is throw it up. I would love that. And I hope we see it this weekend. If we're not going to have Richie James or Justin Watson, gosh, Justin Ross has to be on the field making those plays. Is it Matt Nagy? Somebody's keeping Ross so far down the depth chart. We're not seeing him on the field, and it is frustrating.
I have a question for you guys. Joe mentioned earlier that when it comes to the wide receiver position, sometimes he feels that it's too many guys. Do you think the Chiefs are just playing too many wide receivers so none of them can get into a rhythm, into a groove, and Mahomes can do that when you're looking up and you're seeing 3 different numbers or a couple different numbers on every play? Like, what if Andy said, all right, these are the 3 guys. You guys are going to be on the field throughout. Just like with Tyreek, he was on the field, 90% of the snaps, and Sammy, when he was here, was on the field. So they kind of were able to get into that groove instead of like Justin Ross goes up and make a first down catch versus the Vikings. Then he's off the field the rest of the game. Like, if guys can get into a groove, would that help the receivers perform better?
I mean, maybe not. You've seen some players move on and been tried to give that role, a Chris Conley, a Demarcus Robinson, a Byron Pringle, and just because they're getting more time, it's not really them finding a groove and becoming a staple in this league and solidifying themselves. So I don't know if just throwing any guys out there, just sticking with 3 is going to help them.
It's working for Rice. I think it's working for Rashee Rice. I think that because he's getting his opportunities, that he's like, all right, I can settle in. I know where they want me at, playing here in this slot, and I can do what I do. So that's why I'm wondering for the other guys. If you say, hey, this game, Justin Ross, we're going to give you 90% of the snaps and see what type of production we get from you. And, definitely without Justin Watson, like, let these guys really play and see what happens, especially against like Denver next week, a team that you expect to beat no matter what.
But my question was, Richie James, when he went on injured reserve, it was for the 4 games. And this last Thursday against Denver was the 4th game, and we haven't heard anything. I don't know if he's still injured. How long can they prolong him on injured reserve? Can they keep him there until he is ready to return? I mean, nobody's talking about Richie James. No, but not us.
That's Washington's come in and done such a good job as a punt returner. You really like what you've seen there, and I don't know. It's going to be a chessboard all season long. You're going to be moving parts. You're going to be figuring it out. This is going to be fun in a way. Now, Noah always talks about fun. I'm going to turn into Coach Herman Boone from Remember the Titans, Noah. Let me tell you about how much fun you're going to have this season. If last Sunday was Thursday night against the Broncos was indicative of that. Guys, as an hour and 18 minutes into the show, we got to get to our predictions against the Chargers because they are coming to Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday. 3:25 kickoff. The Chargers coming here. Gosh, Shane, I'm going to start with you because you brought up that very odd little stat of Justin Herbert being 2-1 against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Does that matter coming in here? And what do you have?
I think the Chiefs, I think it's a concern, and I think the coaching staff will be putting it on the Chiefs and putting it right in their face all week long. They're going to be saying, hey, Herbert's 2-1. Let's go look and see what happened in 2021, how he beat us. Granted, he was beating Charvarius Ward and other cornerbacks, but still, I think the Chiefs defense is playing at a high level, that the Chiefs will win 34-20. going away. I think the Chargers, I think it'll be close at halftime, maybe Chiefs up by 4, but the Chiefs will win 34-20. What do you got, Brian?
Yeah, not quite that. I think it'll be close. I think we'll see another fake punt because that's what these teams are going to do against the Chiefs. They're going to throw the playbook at us. They're going to see what sticks. They're going to try to empty it out against us. So I hope the defense and the special teams are prepared for every nook and cranny, every hook and ladder, every annexation of Puerto Rico that the Chargers are going to pull out, because I think that's what's going to happen. But ultimately, I think it'll be a lot of field goals for them. It'll be a lot of dumb coaching decisions, a lot of fourth downs that Brandon Staley will go on, and it'll cost them. Harrison Butker sends the Chiefs to victory with a 26-23 win.
Wow. What do you got, Michael?
28-20. I think that it's going to be another close
Chargers?
Hey, I was leaning towards an upset, but after seeing them yesterday,
That's what I was thinking. I thought I might pick it, but then I watched him play, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah, I watched them play, and I was just like, man, something just looks off with them. The rookie out of TCU isn't stepping up in Mike Williams' spot. That's why I'm picking the Chiefs, because Mike Williams is the Chiefs killer. That guy finds a way to look like Calvin Johnson when he plays the Chiefs, and he's not there. So I'm like, who's going to step up? I know we're going to probably throw Snead at Allen throughout the game, which, I love that matchup. But I just think without Mike Williams, they don't have enough. Unless somebody just steps up and plays out of their mind, I think the Chiefs take care of business. 28-20, a close game. But, with that defense, that offense finds enough. And I think a wide receiver will catch another touchdown this week.
High marks. High marks. Guys, this is it for the Chargers. Last year, we talked about how funny it was that the Chiefs practically wrapped up the AFC West by Thanksgiving. How funny is it going to be if this is wrapped up by Halloween? Because that's the direction we're heading if it's 6-1 versus 2-4. Guys, the Chargers are desperate. They're coming in here. They know that this is on the line. Like it was alluded to here, you're going to see fakes. This is Katie bar the door. This is the kitchen sink. Every cliche you want to use. And by the way, Khalil Mack is playing at an extremely high level right now. That does give me some concerns. The Chiefs don't score 30 points typically. It was tough sledding even last year to do that, especially at Arrowhead. They did it only one time. I think the Chiefs win this game 27-21, and we are the winners and the division's over. Good night.
Hey, I like it. And something that people aren't talking about is last year in the playoffs, the Jags and Chargers played. Joey Bosa went up against Jags right tackle Jawan Taylor and was complaining about his alignment and false starts against him. So look, if Chris Collinsworth isn't going to make it a deal, Joey Bosa will this week, and the Chargers are definitely going to be talking about it. So that's something to watch out for, the penalties and Joey Bosa losing his mind if they're not calling it on Jawan Taylor like he did in the playoffs. So, but with that said, like Michael, I thought maybe this would be my upset pick, that I'd have the Chargers over the Chiefs, but I watched them play on Monday, and yeah, that can't happen. So like Clint also said, the Chiefs aren't scoring 30 points. So I got this 24-20 close game, but Justin Herbert has to drive the field and score a touchdown at the end of the game, and he just can't do it. We haven't seen it at least consistently or enough out of Justin Herbert to believe he's going to do it. That Chargers defense, while they can pose some issues, I think the Chiefs are going to get enough done because they don't have a lot at corner. And the secondary, Derwin James likes those 15-yard penalties, so we'll happily take those as long as nobody gets injured out there. And the Chiefs get out of there with a 24-20 win. Not too fun of a game to watch, not too exciting, not many points, but hey, like Brian likes to say, it's about the alphabet, and we get the W.
There it is. Look at that. At the end of the day, everybody hugs it out and we say goodbye. Guys, were you not entertained? Joe Theismann up in here, the Allies giving you their predictions afterwards. This has been probably our longest show. And thanks for Joe for sticking around for so long. We had to kind of get our comments in on the other side.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for doing it, guys. See it.
Go Chiefs, baby.
Get out of here. Click out. Just click out.